FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's hump day. So.
Yeah, and it's a little craziness in the control room.
Yeah, a little craziness, but...
Well, you know, the breaking news all over the city was, I guess the mayor was on WHTB yesterday, and he made an allegation, notice I said an allegation, against one of his competitors that they are under investigation. Well, not moments after he made that, Facebook went nuts. People were attacking the mayor. They were attacking, you know, Al for even allowing this to go on the air. They were saying that, you know, the mayor's right. This is what's happening. It's getting dirty. It's getting dirty.
Well, you know, I guess they call it kind of project. It sounds like little Johnny got caught with his hand in the cookie jar. So now his defense is Mary stole a cookie too.
I think so.
I don't know. And look, he said a lot of other things on that show.
Oh yeah, he did. But that's the one
that tend to be need to be scrutinized by the voters a lot closer.
Yeah, I know. I listened to part of it, and I'll tell you. He said we have too many nonprofits in the city. Really? Is this his new revelation?
And wasn't he trying to encourage a nonprofit to come in here?
He's encouraged every nonprofit to come here, including expansions.
Yep.
By Stanley Street, which is a nonprofit. So, you know, talking out of both sides of your face doesn't exactly work. And, you know, my position is, you know, I think they should make payments in lieu of taxes. The city wanted to go with service in lieu of taxes, which I think is a joke, because how can you know, remedy the service thing? It's a big thing in Boston. It's a big thing in Cambridge. It happens in Providence. Nonprofits pay their share. And if they can't, guess what? Then they pay for every service. Yeah. That's my opinion. Send them a bill for everything.
And ironically enough, in a lot of those communities, they need that a lot less to shore up their budget than we do.
Right.
Obviously, Fall River, if you look at you look at our tax base in comparison to these other communities, the reality is, I mean, if you take non-taxable land, church land, public land, you know, city-owned land, and then the nonprofits, God, we got about 60% of the city already that's non-taxable. So, and they do get service.
That's
they
right.
get fire protection, police protection. They get, and you know, many communities say that they have to work out something where they're going to pay toward that, and it's not a radical idea. It's something they're doing. And you know, he said a lot of things. He talked about potholes, and he said that Bill Clinton said something about potholes or something.
I reviewed that speech,
and I'm not sure he ever said it.
I reviewed that speech. It's a 53-minute speech that was given down in Miami, and not once did I hear the term pothole or New England. I did hear about the opioid problem. I did hear about you are the new innovation. You know, you're the new way of handling. You know, I heard all of this.
No, I feel your pain in that one.
No,
I feel your pain.
I feel your pain.
But the thing is, even if he did say it, I mean, the fact is, because he mentioned potholes, doesn't mean that we get to ignore our potholes.
Right.
And you know, we hear about, we've got a database, we got this, we got that, but you know, somebody just broke their toe in a pothole, I was told, the other day. And, you know, and just like the drug crisis, apparently he talked about he's getting drugs off the street and the other councilors can't. Well, I didn't realize he was a police officer, or, you know, and although he does have a police officer's car. So maybe he now has deputized himself and he's running around. I know we had some drug busts, but then he talked about bringing the feds in, and I mean, that's ludicrous. What is the federal government going to do? They're going to give you a grant, maybe. And if you don't utilize that grant correctly...
We don't utilize grants correctly in Mass.
That's true. But, I mean, if you don't utilize the grant, it's not going to do any good. The reality is, listen, I mean, we've got We've got all kind of interdiction programs and, you know, stopping drugs, stopping this, and we've got all kinds of opioid problems on every level. But the reality is, when the elderly at these high-rises tell people that they're afraid to walk out of the high-rise because they're going to be accosted by a drug addict looking for money, or they're afraid in the evening because they're doing drug deals behind the high-rise, you know, the reality is that the feds can only give us money. The state can only give us money.
That's right.
This problem has to be solved, and it has to. The solution is not calling, you know, Big Brother the state and Daddy the federal government, and getting some of our own money back that we could probably not use accurately. You know, the reality is, in order to cure the problem, we have to come together as a community and say, you know, we have to work on it. We have to fix our own streets. We have to go street by street, house by house, like they're doing in Mosul, and we have to do what we've got to do. And we've got to do this with a strategy and with an eye to taking back the city. Because you know something, if everybody just sits in the house and pulls down his shades, it's not going to happen. You know, everybody wants somebody else to fix the problem, and this is a community problem. It's a problem for everybody. There was a time where you could walk safely in your own neighborhood, and it's time for the neighborhoods and the city and to use every available law enforcement tool we have to basically send a message that this is not a good place for drugs, crime, or anything else. And that's really the only way we're going to fix it, because, you know, that's the old Fall River adage. Where, you know, people hate the term socialism. They call Bernie Sanders a socialist. Well, let's face it. Fall River's a socialist government, because who do we look for? Where do we get our money from? This city, without state funds and federal funds and grants, it would be escape to Fall River, not escape to New York. You know, the first thing out of our government's mouth is, we've got to get more state aid. We've got to get this. We've got to get that. Let's bond some more. Let's take some more money out of the taxpayer's pocket. Let's take the wallets away from everybody and take every spare nickel that they've got. And until we change the way we do business and do what people always say, you know, when they're making derogatory comments about people without a job, you know, while they're sitting in the sixth floor giving themselves six-figure salaries, and their response to everything is just like the person who's on welfare. It's like, you know, in the old days, the welfare recipient wanted a block of cheese. It was pretty good cheese, too, actually.
It was.
But they got a block of cheese. But every time we deal with financial issues in this city, it's let's get more money from the state. Let's get some grants from the feds, and let's raise taxes and fees. No, you know, I can't remember the last time we had somebody on the sixth floor who said, you know something, we're going to have a level-funded budget. We're going to freeze everything except essential hires, like in public safety, and we're going to live within our budget. That's almost a term that you can't even. It's incomprehensible in this city for politicians. Live within your budget. Tighten your belt. Try to get a little bit of better bang for your buck. In private industry, we would have been bankrupt, and we would have been a thing of the past, you know, 10 years ago, because, you know, I don't see any solutions out there. All I see is a lot of rhetoric about we're going to get the feds involved, we get this involved, and I know some people were irate yesterday, and you know, there's accusations. It's campaign season, and there's going to be a lot of accusations hurled, a lot of mud balls and other types of balls, you know, and thrown around. And voters out there, don't listen to the rhetoric. Listen to the solutions. Listen to what their plan is to fix this. And if their plan is to get more money from the state and from the feds and not deal with this as a community, you know, stand up, put your fist up, and declare yourself the socialist that you really are.
Yeah, you have to laugh about it. You really do. You know, coming in, I had the radio on, and I heard a woman who called in and said, Fall River's a welfare city. We've been saying this for a long time. And she wasn't talking about the people. She was talking about the city. When you consider the fact that, 80% of the city budget comes from state money? Imagine if the state says, you know what, we're going to cut the money we give you by 40%. Fall River would be bankrupt. We couldn't even make our payments to our bonds. Because remember, they take the money out first. So the money would come out first and there'd be no money left for the city.
Which, by the way, are socialist bonds, too, because they're underwritten by the government, by our state government. Right. So we can't even bond on our own. You know, it's like having your mother co-sign for you.
Yep. Mom, I need a new car, you know.
That's right. Will you co-sign for me? Because I don't have any credit. But, you know, it's people go, yeah, you know, they get upset when they hear that, but it's a fact. The fact is that, you know, what are we doing to get Fall River back to work? We've talked about apprenticeship programs for how long on this show? I mean, apprenticeship programs have been part of the very fabric of their economy for the last 50 years at least. They have probably the most sophisticated and functional apprenticeship program on the planet. Students are funneled into jobs, apprenticeship programs, and they seamlessly move into the workforce. And, you know, I mean, they talked about it on a federal level this year, and Governor Baker, we're going to cover later, has something for a program.
And actually, Attorney General Healy is funding summer youth jobs, and she's driving around the state today looking where that money's going and looking at these youth jobs. The AG's office provides $300,000 in grant funding for 70 organizations to hire young people. How come the state can see that the way to make your communities better is to get people back to work?
Yeah, and I'm reading from that article about Baker's budget. It said workforce skills, learn to earn.
Right.
$1 million for new initiatives to provide employment and credentials for unemployed and underemployed individuals. God, isn't that something? It's like we never heard about that before. Well, you know, how long ago did we talk about the program that was done in Rhode Island about 2 or 3 years ago when they brought people in, taught them how to weld, and gave them a trade, and then they moved into electric boat and places like that. And you know, it's
and
like
Gina Raimondo's doing the same thing now.
I know. It's you know, it's when you look at this stuff, you go, wow, here we go, another year of promises to do things that we already know have been done, but ironically, they're either underutilized or they're not done at all by communities. So we get back to that, the hallmark of today's complaint, that the city doesn't take care of itself. It's up to the people of this community to come together and again be a community and say that it's up to us to take back the community. It's up to us to demand from our politicians that they listen and put us to work.
Oh, God forbid.
And I don't want to hear, oh, you know, I'm going to make sure we get more state aid this year. You know, yeah, and look, I'm not saying you can, you know, you can get along without it, but there are a lot of communities that could get along without it, but they get it, and they even get a disproportionate amount, like from the lottery. But it's just, you know, it's a commentary on why we stagnate. We stagnate because all we ever hear is this baloney, and then rather than deal with issues, I want to see some concrete stuff. I want to see, you know, I don't want to hear from people that my street looks like Fallujah. I broke my toe in a pothole. I lost the front end of my car in a pothole, and then have the mayor say, well, you know, we got a database.
Great solution. You got a database.
So, I mean, that's just not enough with the oh, she's under indictment, he's under indictment, the whole world's under indictment. Well,
But don't you like the promises? I have a plan for this, but I can't talk about it right now.
Oh, yeah, that's a great plan. Yeah.
I always love that. I have a plan for this, but I can't talk about it right now.
Well, who are you going to talk about? It's a plan for Fall River, right? You're the mayor.
No,
But
wait. Hey.
Heaven forbid that we tell the people of Fall River what the plan is.
Hold on a second. I'm going to quote the mayor.
Secret.
I'm the mayor. I don't have to tell you anything. That's a quote from him.
Really?
That
I
is
guess
a
he
quote
hasn't
from him.
read the Massachusetts state constitution
No,
lately,
but
has he?
that is his quote. That is his quote. And he said that to a neighborhood leader. So guess what? He doesn't have to tell you anything. So I have a plan, but I'm the mayor. I don't have to tell you anything. This is why we have a problem. Because you have people who walk around going, oh, yes, he's wonderful. I mean...
Very good impression, by the way.
It's just so sad. When Romero made the movie, The Night of the Living Dead, okay, he created the zombie genre, and he gets so little credit for it. I mean, it was a black and white movie, and it was amazing. It was the first horror genre that actually took off amazingly. And he actually was describing Fall River, But he had so many, if you look at these things, he had so many messages in that. That movie had the first Afro-American hero in the whole film. That never happened. That was right after the civil rights issue, everything else. But they were fighting, they weren't fighting for zombies. They weren't fighting against zombies. They were fighting for their rights. They were fighting for their freedom in this movie. You got to look at what's actually there, not what's on the surface. But it was a great movie.
Yeah.
Without all the innuendo and all the undertones. It was a great movie. Marc Dion again writes another one. He's stuck in the middle in Fall River.
It's a very small middle, I can tell you that much.
Exactly.
Yeah, I especially like the line. It said, you're required to have a better employment history than both Richard Cabaceres or Jaisal Correa.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, we get back to that same theme of the mayor's attitude that he doesn't have to tell us anything. This is why we get people hired that are not qualified for jobs.
I was just
and
talking
then we
about
get
that this
people
morning.
we get people hired that have got a 6-month gap in their employment record, and they're making
6
huge
years.
money. I'm sorry, 6 years. Yeah. No, I mean, see, that was like a
a
mental
wish.
block. I couldn't comprehend somebody without, with a 6-year gap in their employment being hired, for a job without severe scrutiny. And we also saw what happened with DCM. We hired one guy, his resume came public, he didn't show up. The next guy showed up, we found out that one of his biggest jobs was ice house guard, and they put him in charge of DCM, and what happened? He gets demoted because he can't do the job. So he takes a few $1,000 pay cut, and now we pay another guy the big money, and he's still getting fairly big money. But, as you said, you quoted him. I don't have to tell you. I'm the mayor.
I'm the mayor.
Well, I hate to tell you this, but this is not a dictatorship. It is a republic, and you, by the Constitution, are supposed to be our representative and answerable to us at all times.
Who cares about the Constitution?
Our favorite part of the Massachusetts
That's right. But who cares about the Constitution? So, again, we're going to talk about taxes.
Yep.
The voters voted to legalize marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
They came up with a tax rate, and the legislature says, hey, you know what? We don't like that. We're going to double the tax rate on the recreational marijuana. And the advocates for legalizing it are now going to take them to court. They want the SJC to hear this. They're proposing a tax of 20% on the sale.
Hey, well, you got to make up for their pay raises.
That's
Come
right.
on.
You got to make up for those pay raises. Come on. $34 million in pay raises and $430 million shortfall in 2017. But I thought we couldn't deficit spend.
But we do.
But we do. So they've protected the rights, as they say, for adults to grow, possess, and use marijuana to give them access to a safe legal supply, but the bill removes the barriers to the development of a legal market. Now, Nevada just did this. And Nevada has a reasonable tax rate, but Nevada failed to take into consideration that the marijuana needs to be transported. Guess what Massachusetts failed to take into consideration?
That it has to be transported.
That it has to be transported. And guess what? Transportation of marijuana is governed under what law? Not state.
Not state.
Federal.
Federal.
So these states that are transporting it are having a problem because Nevada's suppliers are running out of a supply because they can't get it transported there. So Nevada's trying to enact some state legislation that will allow them to transport it without vehicles that are required to be registered with the federal government. So it's going to be interesting to see, but 20% tax rate, we'll see what happens with that. And I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Well, you know what's going to happen with that? They're going to jack up the price so hard they'll go back to their old dealers.
And that's exactly the problem. And that's exactly what the advocates for this said. They said what's going to happen is the taxes are going to go so high that it's going to be cheaper to buy it on the street. And the worst part about it is the stuff that's on the street is better than the stuff you can buy from these legal suppliers because it has a higher THC content, that content that gets you high. So,
Yeah.
you know, and I loved Marc Dion's column where he turned. I have to go back to this real quick. Where he turned around and says, "If you want to locate a business in Fall River, you need to go to Judge Judy to decide where you're gonna go."
Yeah, throw it. Yeah. Yeah. But what is it? Is it tomorrow the big day in court?
I think it might be. Yes.
I think tomorrow's the big day. Maybe we'll make at least some media with the, you know.
It's always something.
Are they going to play "Here Comes the Judge" when our corporation counsel goes into the courtroom?
No, they're gonna go, "I got no socks. I got no socks. I got no socks."
Oh, God.
Well, you know, there's an uptick in boating in Fall River, and they're now creating some more dock space down by Battleship Cove, and I actually saw the area, and it looks pretty decent. But the thing that people forgot about was this uptick means something for Fall River. Can you take a guess, Chip? Do you know what that means? People coming into Fall River and, you know, riding their boats through the Taunton River and Fall River? Means money. Cash, dinero,
but not for the average. You know, I mean, you know, we're not set up. You know, this isn't Newport, Rhode Island.
That's right.
They're not going to walk off the boat onto the dock.
Well, the new
and then
dock
wander around Thames Street and, you know, and Brick Alley. You know, this is, you know, the only place that'll make some money are the places located directly on the waterfront.
Right.
And we've seen, look, they've had boat races here numerous times, just as the Holy Ghost Feast. People don't like to hear about it, but it's the largest feast in North America, I believe. It used to be the largest feast in North America.
Yep.
It was just like Fall River celebrates America. It was a very large endeavor. But obviously, if you look at the thing realistically, what did it do? Because if you have the largest feast in North America, and you know, it should have a dramatic impact in its city's economy.
It doesn't.
And realistically, it doesn't, because you have vendors on site, and the only people that make any business are the Portuguese restaurants within walking distance.
And even they are closed. Even some of them closed during the feast.
I know, but some of them are open for a little while, and you know, they get a little traffic. But the reality is, these people come down from Canada and wherever, and you know, half the time they're here in campers and buses, and they're brown bagging it. They buy stuff at the feast. It's not, and it causes more problems with streets being blocked off.
It's a drain on the city.
It's a drain on the city's economy. Plus, we give them all these services
for free.
So in reality, it's kind of like, you know, it's another one of those political things. It's like when politicians march in front of the parade. You know, the parade is meaningless to them. All it is a photo op.
That's right.
That feast is, oh, look at me. I'm going to go to the feast and get my picture taken. But realistically, show me some definitive proof that this community has done, the economy has any kind of infusion of taxes anywhere outside a very narrow area around the feast itself. And, you know, I've seen it. I've seen too many of those feasts, and I know that businessmen
Don't like them.
They don't like it.
No, and I mean, you remember when you were on the fire department? It was a nightmare because you had to redirect fire equipment, fire apparatus, and EMS. It was nuts.
All emergency services and
right.
And
but here's the thing: it is a violation of Mass General Law for any governmental body, state, municipal, or county, to in any way, shape, or form fund or support any religious endeavor. And Fall River, for 30 years, has been dishing out millions of dollars to this feast. And then they complain they don't have police officers. Well, $30,000 just in police overtime last year could have been put towards getting another police officer. I'm not saying $30,000 is going to pay the salary, but, you know, when you start adding up all these things, because you also are running simultaneously the boat races. Here's who benefits from the feast. Nobody. The feast. They throw parties where they spend $35,000. $35,000 on thank you parties for people.
Maybe they should have taken $3,500 and fed the animals.
No, instead they took $3,500 to pay the liquor bill.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, simultaneously they're running the boat race. So you have police at the feast and police at the boat race. You have the harbor master down there, which the harbor master has a staff of volunteers, thank God, because we'd really be up the creek. And the only people that benefit from the boat race is Michael Lund. Michael Lund and the owners of the Cove. They're the only people that make money. So again, city money going into a private enterprise. Why are they not paying? Why are they not paying for the services they're receiving? And this is the big problem. And people go, oh, but the boat race is wonderful. And what did Mike Lund do for this year? He says, oh, we're going to give you fireworks the day before the races. Who cares? Who cares? The fireworks we had at the 4th of July were miserable. Everybody said they were the worst fireworks they've ever seen. Well, when you consider the fact that the city dumped out $8,000 and that's it, you don't get a quality show. I mean, you get a quality show with $50,000 or $100,000. You don't get a quality show with $8,000.
Yeah. And Marc, again, in his article talked about, you know, the city's grappling with these great problems and all these ideas while he's grappling with his bills and the average, what's left of the working class in Fall River.
There is no working class.
Is too busy trying to pay their bills. And this is a big problem. We can't, you know, as I said, we've got to begin to refocus on the people who built this community. You know, this was a working city. Maybe it wasn't a city full of high-paid white-collar employees. This wasn't in Boston, where every major industry has their headquarters in Massachusetts, in Boston or Cambridge.
Right.
But it was a blue-collar town where people had jobs and people had paychecks, and this community did have restaurants and shops and things that were viable. And, you know, that's the thing we keep saying here, and that's the thing you don't hear on the campaign trail. You know, it's about put lipstick, and as a matter of fact, I saw that some congressman said that today about the health care bill. You can put lipstick on that pig, but it's still that same pig, you know. So rather than put facades on Purchase Street, let's fix the potholes that people break their toes in.
Right.
Yeah.
It's craziness. But you know what? This is what happens. And they were talking today about how back in the day, Fall River was great, and they didn't require all this state welfare. Now, this is what we have. All right, everybody, that's our show. Have a great day, and we'll see you on Friday. Remember, stay angry.
Stay angry. We might have another person that's under investigation to announce. I don't know.